I recently had the opportunity to go to the United States Marine Corps Museum in Virginia. And that's a museum that traces the history of the Marines from its founding during the War for Independence and up through current day. They have planes and helicopters and mementos, like things like the flag that was flown over Iwo Jima that featured in that famous photograph by Joe Rosenthal. And while I was there was a retirement ceremony for a Marine. She was a sergeant who had served a lot of years, and they were having this ceremony to honor her as she retired. A number of people spoke, commendations were given, and then it ended by all of the Marines that were there standing and singing the Marine Corps hymn. Now, I've heard that sung before, as I'm sure you have, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. And I've even sung it before in choir. But there is something about hearing this group of Marines singing that hymn from their hearts. And I think what made the difference was that they were singing from their experience. They were singing from this camaraderie of being a Marine. And it made me think of this verse in Ephesians where Paul writes, speaking to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody with your hearts to the Lord. As believers, singing is to be a part of our life. It's a way that we worship God, but it's also a way that we speak to one another, that we give one another encouragement. And there have been times when I have sat in church and myself been unable to sing because of something that was going on in my life. It was too emotional. But hearing the praises of God's people was an encouragement to me. So the Marines might have great reason to sing with gusto, but as followers of Jesus, we have an even greater reason as we praise our God who created us, who loved us enough to send his Son. And we need to remember that that singing isn't just for us, that it's also for those around us. So I would encourage you, it doesn't matter if you have a great voice or a mediocre voice or a pretty horrible voice. God can use our singing to be a way of ministering to others and a way of proclaiming his greatness. So let's sing with joy as we make melody in our hearts to the Lord.